More than a century after the Ottoman Empire killed an estimated 1.5 million Armenian civilians, tomorrow President Biden is expected to declare that this was an act of genocide. President Biden will be the first U.S. president to recognize this genocide. And joining me now to talk more about this historical decision is political analyst John Dadian. John, good to talk with you tonight.
Good evening.
First, let's start with this. I mean, obviously, people hear the term genocide, but I really want to make sure everybody understands what it means. So tell me, what is genocide?
The definition genocide is basically to wipe out an entire race of people. Now, here's the interesting part, Ginger, that when everybody thinks of the word genocide, even though in recent years there's been many other countries around the world, in the Far East, in Europe, that there's been accusations of genocide going on. But here's the interesting thing. Most people think of the word genocide, they think of the World War II Holocaust against the Jews in Germany. The term genocide was actually coined by a Jewish attorney, and he coined it to describe the original massacre in Armenia in 1950. That was a Jewish attorney, and then World War II happens, and it becomes the catchword for what Hitler did.
Wow, that's so interesting. Your tidbits, your knowledge is so amazing. I know historians, some differ on this opinion, but what did Hitler say about the Armenians?
Yeah, there are a couple of historians that don't agree with this, but there is documentation that this actually happened. And it happened at a conference where some of his top advisors were around. And as they started to realize the extent of what his ambitions were, they basically said, you can't do this. I mean, it's never happened in the world, you go for a war crime. And Hitler literally said, and there's documentation on this, he literally gave a speech why he could do it. And then he said, who remembers the Armenians today?
Wow. Wow. And especially for you, I know this hits close to home. Tell me, you're from Armenia. You've got Armenian descent, correct?
Absolutely. I'm half Armenian, half Irish. My dad was 100% Armenian.
And tell me about your dad.
Unfortunately, he died by tragic circumstances when I was 16. But up until that age, I heard many, many stories about not only about the Armenian culture, but about the Armenian massacre. All Armenians, this is in their blood. And it's an understatement to say that I'm ecstatic today when we hear what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm very emotional. If my father was around, I don't know how he would react. He'd be beside himself. And that's it. Here's another point is this goes way beyond people of Armenian descent. Well, I grew up in the Bay Area. I moved away many years ago, but I've had friends calling me today, friends from San Francisco, friends from New York, friends from Florida, all saying, you've told me these stories about how proud you are, your ethnic background. What about this? This might be phenomenal. So that's really good. So this is having repercussions throughout the country. My good friend Levita up in San Francisco has known me since kindergarten. She called me and said, I'm not Armenian, but I fid like one today.
That is just beautiful. I mean, I'm getting chills hearing you talk about it because that's how significant this move by President Biden is. Why did it take so long? Why wasn't it ever recognized before? Well,
now here's the other political, there's several political points on this. First of all, this is the first time in the history of this country that a president's going to recognize it, because several of the recent presidents, the problem is they said while they were campaigning that they absolutely would recognize it. And once they get in, they didn't. Obama, Bush, Clinton, they all promised to recognize it, and they didn't. So President Biden is keeping his promise without a doubt. But here's what the other issue is. Turkey does not acknowledge that the genocide happened. That's what the problem is. And if you don't understand how important that is, let me give you an analogy. Think about this. What if the government and country of Germany were to say the Holocaust and World War II never happened? I mean, people would freak out. So that's the equivalent. Turkey says it never happened. It was because of other reasons. There's so much documentation. At least 1.5 million, some say much higher, was brutally massacred. Whole families, and not only that, but tortured. There was very sadistic rituals that the Turkish Ottoman army did. So there's no doubt that it happened. And so it's about time the United States recognized it. And I've got my personal politics, but I'm amazing all my friends today because I'm saying God bless President Biden.
Oh, that is beautiful. It's wonderful to hear when we have a bipartisan issue, when we can actually leave politics aside and say, this is a great thing that this person is doing. And whether I agree with that person on party lines, it doesn't matter. You stand behind them for doing this. Why do you think President Biden decided to uphold his promise? I mean, does he have a connection?
Well, I'd like to think that he, because his only criteria is doing the right thing. But the other answer is, again, the Armenian community, when the genocide happened at the turn of the 20th century, they emigrated some to France, but mostly to America. For example, my grandfather settled in Fresno because the climate was so similar to Armenia. So there's actually a large Armenian population. It's the largest in California, but they're in Detroit, they're in Massachusetts. So he has a constituency. Now, one of his, again, I'm not going to get partisan, but a major Democrat, which we all know the name, is Adam Schiff, who was, an antagonist against Trump. But Adam Schiff represents Glendale up in Los Angeles County, and that is a huge Armenian population, almost the entire city. So this is helping a lot of Biden's allies. But again, we haven't talked about the country of Turkey is very upset tonight as we speak, and it's going to get worse.
Really quickly, before we let you go, give me a nugget of the Armenian culture that everybody needs to hear. Maybe your favorite thing about the Armenian culture, if you can say just one.
Well, the joke I always tell is certain foods that you would recognize, such as grape leaves, baklava. A lot of people will say it's Greek or Lebanese. No, it's Armenian. All great food starts with Armenia.
You heard it here. John, I really appreciate talking with you tonight. Thank you so much. And I'm glad to hear your father would be proud tomorrow.
God bless KUSI for covering this.
God bless you too, John. Thank you.